the Honourable Kenra Dorset, Minister of Environment of the Bahamas, Her Excellency Lisa Johnson, Chargé d'Affaires to the Bahamas from the United States of America, Mr. Amaro Felipe de Andres, Regional Representative for Central America and the Caribbean with the UN Office of Drugs and Crime, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, friends of wildlife. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you this morning for the Caribbean Regional Wildlife Enforcement Workshop, which has a great agenda and a wonderful array of speakers. The smuggling of rare iguanas spanning 3 continents, with the animals being poached in the Bahamas, trafficked into Europe and Southeast Asia, and involving nationals from at least 5 countries, is not a case study, but a real-life case. And it serves as a perfect example to demonstrate how illegal trade in wildlife is well organised, transnational, and happening across every region. In fact, the recent World Wildlife Crime Report, published by UNODC with the support of the International Consortium on Combating Wildlife Crime, known as IQWiC, indicates that illegal wildlife trade is a truly global problem that affects every country, either as a source, transit, or destination state. It is now well recognised that transnational organised crime groups are deeply involved in wildlife crime and that they are driving the industrial scale illicit trafficking that we are confronting. Illegal trade in wildlife includes a chain of criminality between the source and the final destination that can stretch from forest and rural villages to large cities, across provincial and national borders, until the illegally traded animal or plant specimens are delivered many thousands of kilometres away to illicit markets, unscrupulous dealers, and often to uninformed consumers. This highlights the need for source, transit, and destination states to work effectively together across the entire illegal trade chain to put an end to this highly destructive criminal activity. The Caribbean is a region of exceptional biodiversity as well as geographic, cultural and political diversity. It is also a region where there are varying degrees of illegal trade in, for example, marine turtles, queen conch, sharks, birds, terrestrial reptiles and forest products. The United States and Europe are key markets for trafficked Caribbean wildlife, including purchases made by unknowing tourists who, for example, purchase coral and sea turtle souvenirs. The Caribbean region also serves as a consumer of trafficked wildlife from Central and South America. Wildlife trafficking in the Caribbean, involving both animals and plants, terrestrial and marine species, may exist side by side with narcotics smuggling, human trafficking, and the movement of other forms of contraband. Combating illicit wildlife trafficking presents major challenges. But the positive news is that there is a global collective effort underway to combat it, and we are witnessing encouraging progress at national, regional, and global levels. CITES, or the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, is a legally binding agreement between 182 parties, 181 countries and the European Union, that sets the international rules for wildlife trade by regulating international trade in over 35,000 species of wild animals and plants. The Convention's been in place for over 43 years, and its parties agreed to regulate trade in CITES-listed species in accordance with its provisions, including to take appropriate measures to enforce the Convention at the national level and to prohibit trade in violation of the Convention, as well as to take measures to penalise illegal trade. CITES was described in the World Wildlife Crime Report as an agreement of remarkable scope and power. Over the past few years, we've seen a clear shift away from pointing fingers at one another to finding ways of better working together to address the challenges we're all facing. For example, CITES COP16, which was held in Bangkok in March of 2013, was a watershed moment for combating wildlife crime, with many major decisions being taken by consensus. In July of 2015, the UN General Assembly unanimously adopted a resolution on tackling illicit trafficking in wildlife, the first dedicated resolution on the topic adopted by the UN General Assembly. In September 2015, we saw the UN Sustainable Development Summit adopting the new Global Sustainable Development Goals, with specific targets on ending poaching and trafficking in wildlife. And in September of this year, the 17th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to CITES, known as COP17 or the World Wildlife Conference, will take place in Johannesburg, and we expect a number of critical decisions to be taken by the 182 parties to CITES on enhancing their collective efforts to tackle illegal trade in wildlife. Since 2010, through the IQIC partnership, the CITES Secretariat, Interpol, UN Office of Drugs and Crime, the World Bank and the World Customs Organization have scaled up their collective efforts to ensure that wildlife crimes are treated as serious crimes, with frontline law enforcement support being provided to countries and regions in a more coordinated manner. For the past 5 years, IQIC has delivered a growing number of key activities, including the development of vital tools and the provision of critical services for the law enforcement community, to support authorities around the world to respond more effectively to the severe threat posed by transnational organised criminal groups' involvement in wildlife crime. Efforts are, for example, currently underway to develop training materials on anti-money laundering with a focus on wildlife crime, and to implement the IQIC Wildlife and Forest Crime Analytic Toolkit in around 20 countries. We have also developed an indicator framework on wildlife and forest crime for countries to be able to measure and monitor their enforcement efforts, responses and capacity, as well as guidelines and training videos on ivory sampling procedures. IQIC is also providing specialised training and technical and operational support, such as through the deployment of wildlife incident support teams and supporting operations such as Operation Infraterra, a global operation to track, trace and arrest wanted fugitives for wildlife crimes. Thanks to donors such as the United States of America, IQIC is also supporting regional events such as this one, and will be convening the second global meeting of the Wildlife Enforcement Networks in September this year, alongside CITES COP17, with the first meeting having been held in Bangkok in 2013 at CITES COP16. Our colleagues will brief you more in detail on this upcoming meeting, but we do hope that a representative from the Caribbean region can be nominated to participate and to present the outcomes of this week's meeting. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is only through joint and coordinated efforts that we will be able to succeed and to bring these highly destructive crimes to an end. Effectively addressing illicit trafficking in wildlife requires ongoing, scaled-up efforts at the national, regional and global levels. The development of wildlife enforcement networks has often helped improve law enforcement cooperation and led to enhanced successes in a number of regions. This regional conference, being hosted by our close partner UNODC on behalf of IQIC, will help you discuss the existing challenges in the Caribbean and identify effective and sustainable solutions to enhancing collaboration and taking action against illegal trade in the region. And this can be shared more widely at our COP17 in September. Thank you once again for the opportunity to address you today. I most certainly regret that I'm not able to join you in person in the Bahamas, but I'm delighted that CITES is well represented by our good colleague, Pia Johnson. Hey, Pia. I wish you every success over the coming days, and I look forward to learning more of the outcomes of this most important meeting. I thank you.